we have friends that are also exotic car owners, and like we do rallies, and like we know that a lot of luxury watch guys are also exotic car guys, and a lot of exotic car guys are actually also luxury watch guys. And we we show up to the golf course, we show up to the car rally wearing our watches. And when we do, my advice to this community is to don't show up as this guy, right? Don't show up with the Rolex Submariner, because really, like, Submariners are worn by everybody. And honestly, like, at the level that I play at with like luxury watches and exotic cars, and I'm sure many of you do as well, it's like you want to like start conversations with your watch, and the guy wearing the Submariner in the group is like the guy you don't want to talk to. And so you have to think about, in my opinion and in my experience, like, how can you be wearing a watch that's going to start a conversation? It's going to make you look like a connoisseur as opposed to just like a consumer that kind of wears what everybody else wears. You want your watch to attract the right people. And I have found that as business gets done on the golf course, as we go to exotic car rallies or like exotic car meetups, that like the guys wearing the interesting watches, they are the most interesting people in the group. And they're like the people you want to network with. And the guy wearing the Rolex Submariner is like not the guy that you want to network with. So how do you select the right watch for networking? I talked a little bit about this right earlier, but there is like this wearable art trend for watches, and you want to try to play into that. And I've got some examples of what that looks like a little bit later in the presentation, but you want your watch to not look like it's been mass produced, right? Like the Rolex Submariner is like mass produced. You don't want it to look like that, right? You want your luxury watch to be rare, scarce, very unique. Like there are very bold colors that can spark meaningful interaction with those that you're meeting. And there's always a story behind these types of watches as well. Now, when I say the story, like you don't have to know like the horological background of the brand, or like how, like what the name of all the, gears and functions are within the watch. Like it's not that type of story. Like this type of story is like the emotion that watch brings, the way that it demonstrates like your level of taste. Like those are the things that I think are most exciting. So for example, like a couple of years ago, I was at a big business conference, and I was walking the trade show floor, just kind of looking for interesting people to meet and network with, and like companies maybe there could be some partnership with. And I walked by this booth, and I just like by default always look at people's wrists, right? And some people look at shoes, some people look at faces. I look at wrists. I do look at shoes too, though, because I am a big shoe guy. But I looked at this guy's wrist, and I was like, oh, he's wearing a Hublot Big Bang. Like that's interesting. He is probably the only guy around here wearing a Hublot Big Bang. So let me go like introduce myself to this guy, because like I'm wearing a cool watch and he's wearing a cool watch too. So I went up, introduced myself to him, and he ended up being the president of this like services company. And we had a great discussion. Like we spent the first 5 minutes like nothing about business. It was all about watches. I was like, dude, Hublot, like I'm a fan of Hublot. I love their design. They're starting to do some really cool things with their movements. I'm a fan of the Big Bang. Like, tell me, like, why are you wearing Hublot today? Like, what drew you to that watch, right? And he's just like lit up, and he's like, let me tell you, like, I love this and that. Like, I have a few more at home. And then I was telling him about my watch. I had like a very unique, like Omega, blue side of the moon, like moon phase, Speedmaster. Really beautiful watch. Was kind of like talking to him about like my selection of watch there, and we ended up like then talking about business. And this was a couple years ago, we stay in touch today. He has procured some watches from me. And his business has done business with one of my other companies as well. Right. So like we've been able to kind of turn literally me just like seeing him wearing a watch into business deals. And that type of stuff happens all the time. Like he's the right person that I want to talk to. Like if he was wearing a Rolex Submariner, I'd be like, nah, I'm not like really that interested in talking to him. So you have to build a connoisseur profile when it comes to your watch. And there are like obscure brands that maybe you've heard of, maybe you haven't heard of. But like when you're wearing these brands and like people that know, they're like, all right, yeah, he knows about watches, right? So like Blancpain is a great example of this, right? Blancpain is also a Swiss brand, as is Panerai. But it's like it's the same price as Submariner, but it's really it shows like the collector's profile. And Panerai is like a very similar brand in this area. Like their 629 is like a very, very interesting watch. It's the type of watch that gets collectors to engage. And again, like when you're thinking about networking and doing business on the golf course, you're thinking about your car rallies and like exotic car buddies, right? Like these are the type of watches that like a lot of these guys know about. And if they don't know about it, they're going to be super curious because it's not a Rolex. I mean, what the hell is that thing? Like, tell me about it. It's very interesting. And then it creates this dialogue, right? So there's also what I call like a value play strategy with a lot of luxury watches. What a lot of people don't realize is that like 99% of watches, like luxury watches, in particular, I'm just talking about, right? So 99% of luxury watches, they depreciate like immediately when you buy them at the boutique. So what I mean by that is like say you buy a car, right? You buy like a brand new car, and you know 99% of these cars, right? Kind of like luxury watches, but 99% of these cars you may buy brand new, like they're going to depreciate, and some of them depreciate like heavy over like 3 to 4 years. Like they lose 50 to 60% of their value, right? As you continue to drive them and put miles on them and all that type of stuff. Same thing happens with watches, but it happens with watches like immediately. So this Ulysse Nardin is like one of my favorite brands. I absolutely love it. And it offers like a really, really interesting value play, right? So like this watch, this is a Ulysse Nardin Freak and gold enamel blue timepiece. The Freak movement is absolutely insane. It's one of the coolest things you could ever have on your wrist. It's an incredible conversation starter. It's a $56,000 MSRP. So like if I was to go into the Ulysse Nardin boutique, I would pay $56,000 for this brand new. I would never advise that you do that though, because literally like the next day you walk out of the boutique, you bought it in June of 2025. It really doesn't matter. You go to sell it on the secondary market, it's now valued at $35,000. It just depreciates so hard. And this happens to most watches. Now, some of the watches I talked about in the first section, you know, the Pateks and the APs that I mentioned, like a few of those are what I call market value watches that actually appreciate the minute you walk into the boutique. But the reality is that only 8% of the Rolex portfolio is actually what I would call like a market value watch, which is like you actually want to buy it at the boutique, and when you walk out, you make money. Only 8% of the Rolex portfolio does that. And a fewer, and it's the same story when you think about AP and you think about Patek. Most of these watches just drop like a rock in the secondary market. And you just have to know what to buy. But it also creates like a really interesting story, because like when you're networking with this watch, they'll be like, wow, what is that on your wrist? So you tell them what it is, and then you can brag to them, be like, hey, this is a $56,000 watch. I got it for 35. I'm a really smart buyer. So it tells a money story, it shows insight, and like, and when you buy it at 35, it's actually a very good store of value, because like that depreciation curve just flattens out. Like it drops like a rock and then it flattens out over time. And so you've actually parked your capital in this watch. It's not going to continue to depreciate. So it shows a good money story. It shows you're a smart buyer, and it shows a connoisseur profile. So I'm a big believer that like my watch and your watch should be your business card in elite circles, and that your watch should reflect like your discernment and I think your personality for sure as well, not just your wealth. And I really believe that like again, like your watch can say a lot in terms of what you're wearing. Like, I will always argue that like the guy wearing the Rolex Submariner is not the guy you want to talk to. The guy wearing the Ulysse Nardin is definitely the guy you want to talk to. Like, very interesting profile, I guarantee you. Right. The most interesting people I've met have been Ulysse Nardin watch owners. Okay.